Today I'm going to tell an experience I had where I was about to die, and it's a God miracle that I'm here today.
Well, but tell us, what did you feel?
Well, I heard that the doctor and the nurse screamed, "She's dying, she's dying! Take her quickly to emergency, please." But I didn't understand what was happening. The only thing I felt was choking sensation and I couldn't move. When they took me to emergency, they said, "She has an internal bleeding." It was horrible because I didn't understand what was happening. The only thing I certainly remember is that the doctor asked me which was my blood type, and I managed to say I am B negative, and I fell asleep because they anesthetized me. When I woke up, I was in recovery with tubes inside my mouth. And obviously, when I reacted, the nurse took off all the tubes I had and I began to breathe by myself. There I stood 3 hours while the effects of the surgery went off because I had many things connected to my body. And also, the doctors saw my recovery so I could be moved to a room. More or less in 6 hours, I was moved to a room, but I felt very sleepy and I didn't feel I was completely awake. The next day, I was completely awake. The doctor came to my room to tell me that what had happened. And I was in shock when he told me because I never imagined the magnitude of the experience I had lived. In that moment, the doctor told me, "Hey, Monica, you were a miracle of God because when you arrived to the hospital, you fainted because you were having the internal bleeding. But fortunately, I had the operating room prepared. I knew what was happening to you, and you fainted in the emergency lounge. Because if you fainted outside the hospital, you wouldn't survive, and you are alive because you reached the hospital on time." He told me, "Look the magnitude of the surgery you were." I was surprised because he told me that surgery was a laparoscopy, a simple procedure. He told me he didn't have the time, he had to open me to stop the bleeding and save my life.
Did you feel during the situation, before and after?
Before it happened, I didn't feel anything because the doctor always told me it was a simple surgery. So I never imagined that it was a serious situation and that my life was in danger. But after all, I was in shock because I didn't understand how something so simple could turn to something so complicated. And I was saved by the God's miracle because all things considered for my life to be saved. First of all, that day I had the doctor's appointment. The doctor called me and told me, "Let's see each other today," because I didn't like the result of your exams. That day I had another appointment, and he told me it was urgent. And just when the call ended, I received a mail that said that the reunion was postponed for the next day. I immediately called the doctor and told him that the other reunion was cancelled, so I could go to the medical appointment. And that was the same day that happened all the things I'm telling you. That's why I felt that it was God giving me a second chance in my life.
How would you describe this experience? Like learning, like karma, like revenge, or like unity with God? How would you describe it?
I will describe it like an opportunity to get closer to God, because thanks to that, I began to be more spiritual and to be near to God. And although I know it isn't enough, today I feel I want more spirituality and closeness. What does this experience influence in your life?
Influenced it in a positive way because it helped me to think about a lot of things in my life I wasn't doing well, and I started to give more priority to my family because before I haven't. So today I have as a priority to my family and to God.
A lot of people are scared to death. Do you consider that in that moment you were feeling scared or anxious, or what were your feelings like at that moment?
In that moment, I couldn't feel fear because everything happened so fast. I couldn't, and actually, I didn't understand what happened until the next day when I was completely anesthetized. So when I woke up, I understand what happened. There was where I started to feel anxious about what I had that second chance. There was where I started to question myself and to ponder why that happened to me. And it took me a lot of time to comprehend why God gave me another opportunity, and finally I understood there were some things to improve, especially in my spiritual life.
Do you feel like you completely get over that situation? Why?
I feel I almost overcome it completely, although I still feel it is not enough when I overthink and remember if I'm taking advantage of this second opportunity and if I'm really following God's plan in this second chance. So there is where I feel I haven't overcome at all the situation.
And in that moment, did you fight for your life or you just gave up? Or what happened?
In that moment, I didn't feel like I was fighting for my life because it happened so fast that I fainted and I didn't have the chance to assimilate the magnitude of what was happening. So I can say if I fought for my life or not. I believe I fought for my life because at the end I could survive. And the doctor told me that I lose a lot of blood, so they needed to make me a blood transfusion. But I wasn't so conscious because really it was so fast and also it wasn't and it isn't easy to assimilate.
Do you believe heaven exists?
Definitely yes, because obviously I believe in God. I believe there is heaven and we have to fight to get there.
In that moment, did you want to die or did you want to keep living? Why? Something motivated you or not?
Obviously, I didn't want to die. I felt that that wasn't the moment and that I still have a life to live because I haven't lived nothing concluded. All my life was definitely unfinished, so there were a lot of things left to do.
Who do you consider that are the people who deserves to go to heaven?
I think that everyone that obey God's plans and that always act with their heart, thinking in the benefit of the others, are the ones who deserve to go to heaven.
Do you consider that in that moment you were going to heaven or where?
I don't know. But I wish I would go to heaven in that moment. But really, I haven't think about that never.
Before that incident, do you think you accomplished everything you wanted to do in that moment?
No, really, I haven't accomplished what I have planned to do. Actually, there were many things I wanted and have to do because I have two daughters, and in that moment, one of them was a little baby, and they deserve to have a mother. So I feel there are a lot of things to do because I want both of my daughters to move forward, and I beg God to give me so many years to be there for them and to go along with them in all the path of their life.
But you said you wanted to conclude some things in your life. Do you think that in this moment you are ready to leave this world?
I think you are never ready to go, but I am more prepared now than before. But I would like to live many years more because I want to be with my daughters much more time.
And finally, what do you think is your mission in this life?
My mission is arriving to heaven.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you for this interview.